Another big part of all this is university endowments. They'll be under new pressure. You're also reporting on what the new tax rules will mean for higher education?
Absolutely. You know, when we look at what U.S. colleges and universities held in 2023, more than $900 billion in total investable assets is what they held at the end of that fiscal year. The government wanted a bigger slice of those funds, but it won't quite get as much as first proposed. The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act imposed a 1.4% tax on endowments. That rate will remain the same for smaller endowments, but now for endowments between $750,000 and $2 million, the rate will increase to 4%. And the rate for endowments over $2 million is now set at 8%, nearly quadruple the prior rate. However, schools with fewer than 3,000 tuition-paying students are exempt, regardless of their endowment size. The tax increase will impact some of the top research universities in the country. Experts say the higher tax will hit about 15 schools. In 2023, 56 universities paid about $380 million under the endowment tax. The Joint Committee on Taxation figures this endowment tax will now bring in $761 million over 10 years. Now, the amount the Treasury could collect from the tax also depends on how much endowments earn and if tax changes and donor behavior or how the endowments invest changes as well. Experts say the amount the U.S. Treasury gets could be smaller if colleges and universities shift their endowment strategy to avoid a severe tax hit. They could do this by shifting from dividend-paying assets to non-dividend alternatives or offering more scholarships to reduce the number of tuition-paying students to less than 3,000.
Wow, Sharon, those are some big changes for endowments that are largely used often to pay for scholarships. What's sort of the calculation that's been used here to determine whether schools have the kind of excess funding that needs to be taxed? Does it have to do with how much money they have in those endowments relative to how many students they have, or how does that work?
It is relative to how many students they have. And so that's the key factor in determining this. And again, schools that have a smaller number of students are going to be exempt altogether. So we're talking about schools like Amherst and Wellesley, and they do have significant endowments, but they have a small number of students. So when you look at this, what the universities are doing right now is they're doing damage control. They're trying to figure out how they can stop hiring for 3 months or so, cut spending budgets by 5% or so, trying to make sure that they're prepared for what they anticipate is going to be a significant budget shortfall. It's still, many of the universities are saying, will not be enough.
So not to get into too much of the weeds here, but there are also some changes in this legislation that's been passed to federal support for student loans. How is that going to shift the terms under which students who need loans, perhaps they don't qualify for total need-based aid, maybe they just need loans, the sorts of terms that they might get if they're not federally backed in the same way?
Well, we're looking at the federal changes and also just the fact that we're seeing significant cuts as well to major institutions like the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation that provide research dollars and then allow schools to provide scholarship aid to students working in those areas. We're going to see a significant impact on students that require financial aid in terms of their education, and that could change what we see in terms of the demographics of many of these schools.
Now, on the flip side, is there the argument to be made that it was the federal loan amounts were actually pushing the inflation in tuition, and maybe by making that less available, it'll reduce the incentive that schools have to raise the ticket price and stop that tuition inflation thing that we've certainly been seeing for the past couple decades?
That certainly has been one of the arguments. But again, we're looking at many students who will need this aid, and they are getting it because the universities have significant endowments and can provide need-blind assistance and make sure that that continues to happen. It's going to be very important for these schools to have the funds to do so. They're concerned that they may not.
Really important for so many of the nation's youth that need to be prepared for the workforce. Sharon Epperson, great work. Thank you.
Sure.
While the president's spending...
You know what they're doing? I know what they're doing. They're attacking so-called liberal elites like Harvard, places like that, huge endowments, even though most universities are going to lean liberal. It's kind of the way it goes. People who use their heads actually think out things, not just follow what, right-wing propaganda tells them to do. Major universities normally do lean liberal, especially places like Harvard, Yale, Stanford. But they're attacking what they think is liberal elites. They're so ridiculous. On top of that, they're going to try to take away, they're going to hurt, how people who need scholarships get scholarships and how much they can get. It's more despicableness. That's all they're ever up to. I guarantee you, if you look into any bill that a Republican majority passes, it's either going to help people who don't need help, the very rich, or it's going to be some kind of dog whistle, bull crap program that's attacking like the 3 transgender people in the whole country. It's probably more than 3, but it's a huge, minority. It's nothing that, it's nowhere near the attention they give it. It's going to be something like that, some kind of non-serious social issue, but something that helps the very rich. They're despicable people. Stop letting them fool you. I mean, once again, taking from the poor and giving to the rich. That's all I got for this episode. Thanks for watching.